But let's focus first on India, where the country has intensified its battle against novel coronavirus, declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. So far, there are 85 active cases in the country. With the confirmed cases on the rise, Karnataka has announced a closure of malls, cinema halls, schools and colleges for a week. Other states, including Delhi, UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, have also ordered a shutdown on schools. Other measures, the top story tonight.
Karnataka has quarantined itself hours after the first coronavirus death in India was reported in Kalburgi. The Yediyurappa government has imposed severe restrictions, probably the toughest in the country. The state shut down malls, theatres, pubs, schools and universities for a week. All sporting events and social gatherings stand banned.
Almost everything will be closed. I am requesting people of Karnataka to cooperate with us for 1 week. Please stay in the house.
No need to panic in Karnataka, so everything.
Not necessary.
Haryana, Delhi, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Uttarakhand, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh have also shut schools. In Noida, all 707 employees of a private company are in quarantine after an employee there tested positive. The Uttar Pradesh government claims it is fully prepared to fight the outbreak.
जनपद स्तर पर 820 बेड पहले से ही हम लोगों ने आरक्षित रखे हुए हैं। 24 मेडिकल कॉलेजेस जो गवर्नमेंट के भी हैं और प्राइवेट के भी हैं, इन 24 मेडिकल कॉलेजेस में भी 448 बेड आइसोलेशन वार्ड के रूप में हम लोगों ने सुरक्षित रखते हुए।
One good news, the wife of an Italian tourist in Jaipur who was positive for coronavirus is cured. India today visited the ITBP Chawla camp where Wuhan returned Indians are under quarantine. 112 people are released from the camp after 14 days.
वो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. हमको एक्चुअली एक्सपेक्टेशन से ज़्यादा अच्छी केयर मिली है यहाँ पे. डॉक्टर्स 24/7 हमेशा मौजूद रहते हैं. कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो तो रोज़ मेडिकल चेकअप होता है. क्लीनलीनेस काफ़ी अच्छा है और आप जैसे देख सकते हैं बेड्स के बीच में भी उन्होंने काफ़ी डिस्टेंस बना के रखा है. तो हमारा यहाँ पे रहना काफ़ी आरामदायक किया था उन्होंने. जितना हो सके उतना स्ट्रेस फ्री थे हम लोग.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi took stock of the situation on Friday. He has appealed to all South Asian nations to form a strategy to fight the disease. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, with the World Health Organization declaring coronavirus as a pandemic in India, the centre and state governments have begun to take a slew of measures to contain the crisis. One of them is the shutting down of cinema halls, malls and other public places till the end of the month. The question is, does that really work? Here's a report.
People waiting in long queues, waiting with fresh popcorn and movie tickets. A common sight outside major movie theatres in the national capital on a Friday. But no more. Theatres in Delhi have their shutters down. This after the state government ordered closure of cinema halls till March 31st to check the spread of COVID-19.
On any other Friday, there would have been a long queue here at the ticket counter with cinema goers waiting to watch their favourite film. But this deserted look at Connaught Place's cinema halls is reflective of the government's precautionary measures to ensure that public spaces like cinema halls will remain shut till 31st March because they also are vulnerable spaces that could also escalate the spread of COVID-19.
While the order is restricted to cinema halls, a sharp drop in footfall at shopping destinations and other public places is evident.
One of the Safdarjung market where I am at the moment, and look where in the festive season usually there should be a crowd, it's completely deserted. In fact, the shopkeepers, local, all are wearing masks. There are sanitizers kept, and this all deserted look explain itself.
फुटबॉल में करीब 40% का फर्क पड़ा. सॉरी 50% का फर्क पड़ा है. और होली पे भी 40% दुकानदारी।
रीजन क्या नजर आता है आपको?
ये कोरोना वायरस के कारण।
Business is down in other cities as well. Cinema halls in Jammu are also empty.
You can see the impact the coronavirus scare have here in Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in Jammu region. The cinema halls have been shut as a precautionary measure, and according to the order of the Jammu and Kashmir, the cinema halls have been shut till March 31st, and after that the review will be done, and then government will decide whether to open cinema halls again or not.
Malls in Patna, for instance, are deserted.
Several malls in Patna are now witnessing a decline in footfall. And right now we are at one of the posh malls of Patna. This is the GV Mall, located at the Boring Road crossing here in Patna. And here you can see how there's very little number of people who are right now inside this mall.
In Karnataka, Chief Minister Yediyurappa has ordered all malls, theatres, pubs, schools and universities to be shut for a week.
Malls in Bengaluru have become completely empty with zero footfalls, almost zero footfalls, except for the employees. Not much customers are seen coming to the malls at this point of time because of the coronavirus scare.
लोग तो बहुत लोग नहीं आ रहा, माल को तो 90% एम्प्टी है और रोड भी पूरा एम्प्टी है।
आपका बिजनेस कैसा रहा है
सर? हमें एक दिन को 7,800 करता था, अभी 500 भी नहीं होता सुबह से शाम तक।
As the battle against deadly coronavirus continues, state governments and administration are leaving no stone unturned to contain the crisis. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's raise some big questions tonight, and we have some people who've actually worked with patients on coronavirus today. Is India fighting COVID-19 the right way? Is social distancing really working in India? Are there any lessons that we can learn from China's experience? Why is it that the US and Europe unable to check COVID-19? How long before this corona spell ends? I'm joined by two special guests. I'm joined in the studio today by Dr. Raman Gangakhedkar. He's the head epidemiology and communicable diseases at the Indian Council of Medical Research. So he's been someone right on the top of it, looking at what's been happening in the country at the moment. Also joining me is from Jaipur, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari. He's the person whose medical college, SMS Medical College and Hospital, is exactly where the original Italian tourist who was detected with coronavirus was treated and has now been discharged. I appreciate both of you joining us. I want to come to you, Dr. Bhandari, first, because you've actually dealt just a few days ago with a coronavirus patient and cured her. I am told that you used a unique line of treatment combining, correct me if I'm wrong, lopinavir and ritonavir, drugs usually given as a second line treatment for HIV. Is that true? What was the kind of treatment that you used to cure the Italian patient who was suffering from coronavirus? Can you hear me, sir? Okay, we're going to try and get you the line again the moment we can. Dr. Gangakhedkar, you tell us, because you were also involved in this process, working closely with the hospital in Jaipur. Is there a line of treatment that you all have found possibly in the case of this Italian lady who's now been discharged?
No, to make such a big statement would perhaps be premature, because you can't have a single case clinical trial as such.
Yes.
So you need to have larger number of patients in order to make a conclusive decision of any kind for that matter. But we initially, when we picked up ritonavir, lopinavir, that is boosted lopinavir, mainly because at National Institute of Virology, we did docking studies and we found that among all protease inhibitors, perhaps this is the one which can work best against this virus. And that's the reason why we took permission from Drug Controller General of India that we could use it on as public health emergency in public health emergency as a restricted use medicine.
So you're saying there is no single line of treatment.
No. I'm not saying that. I am saying one patient's success cannot be considered as a generalizable.
Sure. But the doctors in Rajasthan have worked closely with you at ICMR. Is this a possible prototype for what can be done to the spreading number of coronavirus cases? Today we are fortunate to have you as someone who's actually looking very closely at this right at the very top of ICMR. So I want to understand, is there possibly something that you believe may be applicable in all the cases, or do you believe each case must be treated differently?
No. Ideally, we would like to see that we have one single uniform regimen. That's number one. Number two, as we said earlier, we had done docking studies to identify ritonavir, lopinavir as one of the drugs. But the third thing which we are trying to do now is, since for the first time our institute has been able to isolate this particular virus, which is difficult to isolate, and we were 5th in the world. Now that we have the isolate, we can actually, to put it in very crude language, you can put the drug on that virus and try and see whether the virus is able to replicate or not. That will be more of a proof of concept, which we can, if we get successful results out of that, then we can plan a clinical.
Have you already started working on this?
Started, yeah.
You have already started working. I think it's important, and I want to flash that for our viewers, because this is someone, Dr. Ganga Khedkar is actually working on this, remember, at the top of ICMR. So we have in the studio 2 doctors today who actually have worked specifically with patients who suffered from COVID-19 in this country. One of them who's back with us is now Dr. Sudhir Bhandari at SMS Medical College and Hospital. You've discharged the Italian patient today. Tell us about the kind of treatment you were able to use successfully.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, we got a week before, on the 28th of February, we got the 2 Italian patients, the husband and wife, and they were found to be corona positive. The husband, who is a senior citizen with the age of 70 years, is already a pulmonary lung patient. So it was a challenge for us to treat the patient. Wife also was a corona positive. Both the couples, they were referred from the corporate hospital to our hospital with the multiple respiratory symptoms. Now, it was a very intense monitoring, the intense medical treatment and taking care of them. We put them on the best of the available antiviral drugs. One of the antiviral drugs which we use, which is already being used for swine flu, that is oseltamivir, and 2 of the newer antiviral drugs, having checked up that they are effective, lopinavir and ritonavir, we coupled up this antiviral treatment along with the needful antibiotics as per the culture, the other supportive treatment, and we also gave the antimalarial drug which we discovered has some effect on similar kind of virus.
Right.
When we give these drugs, we were very closely monitoring for the side effects, if any, but luckily none of the patient had any side effect. They tolerated it very well, and we were so happy that within a week's time, the lady from Italy who had significant symptoms with the meticulous monitoring and antiviral treatment, she became corona negative. She became almost asymptomatic, and 3 days before we shifted her out of our hospital to the quarantine. Now, good news is that the husband, which is a 70-year-old Italian, himself a doctor, he had seen a lot of respiratory patients before coming to India. He was very compromised. He required external BiPAP ventilator for almost 10 days. His oxygen saturation was low, his counts were high. He had a patch of pneumonia. We put him on the standard medical treatment coupled up with the new strategy of new antiviral combination drugs. And to our satisfaction and surprise, he is doing extremely well. His counts have become normal. His oxygen saturation is improved. For last 2 days, for few hours a day, we have been keeping him off the BiPAP ventilator, and he's sustaining good saturation with oxygen support. So I believe very meticulous care by our extraordinary medical team, the anesthetic team, the paramedics, we have been able to make him look better, feel better, oxygen improves. So I think this is the thing we need to ponder, but we tried.
Let me come again to Dr. Ganga.
It is a research project.
That is
we are
excellent.
Going to,
you know, amidst all the negative news, that is a very positive story that's coming in from Jaipur. As I said, this is the team which has worked on trying to ensure that the original Italian patient has recovered. So there's a positive element that's coming in. You know, my son who's a doctor told me this, that while you're focusing on those who are testing positive, and the fact that in certain countries like Iran, Italy, Spain, China, there have been these deaths, there are also a number of people recovering. So is there a sign now that maybe, you know, getting the right medical treatment, I know no drug at the moment is available, but getting the right medical treatment, more people than not are recovering?
No, that is true, because one has to look at this particular virus, which has 80% of the infections that occur, they are subclinical, which means there are no symptoms. It just passes off just like that. If I talk about recovery is very much built in. It's a self-limiting kind of an illness in 80% of these.
80% of the cases, it's a self-limiting kind of recovery.
So now what remains is 20%, and among those 20%, it essentially depends on, do I have different comorbidities? If I have diabetes, if I have blood pressure, if I have asthma or any lung pathology, I am likely to have a severer disease. But does severe disease mean every person must die? Absolutely not. You know, there is a natural course of recovery, and that's the reason why we are looking forward to wait for a short period of time, since in China they have conducted 77 trials so far. Their results are due, and for this lopinavir, boosted lopinavir, they have 199 patients clinical trial. The results will be due.
So in a country like India, confident therefore of being able to contain it?
I wouldn't see, even if I have to give hope, you know, I have to be realistic. I think we need to wait to give the hope. It's just a glimmer of ray of hope. We have to pursue the line little strongly before we say, yes, this can be used to contain the outbreak.
You know, let me for a moment also go to Dr. Margaret Harris, spokesperson of the World Health Organization. You're joining me on Skype from Geneva. We are looking at the situation in India where the number of cases are, active cases are just over 80. We're seeing other countries exploding. How is the World Health Organization seeing the situation today, specifically in countries like India, but in general, do you see some countries far worse affected than perhaps countries like India?
Well, certainly at the moment, India has a very good window of opportunity to close down their outbreak. You have got increasing numbers of cases, and that's a concern, but you're at the stage of your outbreak where if you can detect every case and you can identify all the people who've been in contact around those cases and engage all the people to be really committed to self-isolating, agree to quarantine, and really stop any movement between people who could potentially spread it, then you can stop it. I'm very impressed by the sound of the care that you're providing people, and I think that's a positive as well, that people should understand it's very good for them to identify their symptoms early, because that's when you get the opportunity to be treated well. We are certainly seeing very concerning outbreaks in Europe. I've just read that, you know, we've seen 1,000 new cases in Switzerland, but the good news is in Korea, they're seeing more recoveries and they are seeing new cases. So we do know that outbreaks can be turned around.
And do you believe, therefore, that the entire policy of many state governments now, closing down malls, closing down cinema theaters, schools, colleges, ensuring in a sense an element of social distancing is the best way possible to ensure that this doesn't spread from clusters to communities?
We are seeing exactly that this works. It's a tough thing. Communities don't like it. However, people are beginning to understand that this is something they want. They want to, because they need to protect their vulnerable people. But also in some of the outbreaks we're seeing in Europe, it's not simply the people who've already got underlying disease or people who are older. We're seeing it affect younger age groups, and we're seeing young people who are getting very ill. So those social distancing measures are the things to do early and now to really stop the transmission.
Is that part of the of what you have prescribed? That it's not just about looking for drugs through clinical trials, which will take a period of time, but in your case, Dr. Ganga Khetkar, is it also about ensuring that governments are on board, private hospitals and public hospitals are on board in ensuring that there are adequate isolation wards in every hospital available? This is not just one step, this is a multiple operation that's been carried out now.
Absolutely. If I was to put it in a nutshell for a one-line statement, I would say, in my more than 3 decades of professional life, I have never seen such a comprehensive, concerted action that has been taken in anticipation that perhaps this is likely to be a bothersome problem tomorrow. To be realistic, we started as government, we started the whole thing around 17th of January. The first case that occurred was on 30th of Jan.
Yes.
So you can imagine, it's all stakeholders are part of it. We have taken proactive steps in ensuring that visa that can be issued has also been stopped as of now. This is the right time for us to have little harsher measures, but the reality is our people will survive. We can look beyond for a better future tomorrow.
You know, the word used are harsher measures in a way, Dr. Harris. So you believe in a way the window of opportunity that India has seems to be within the next month before it gets warm. Some believe that the virus could actually decline with the temperatures rising. Is that something that the WHO also believes?
No, it's not something we're seeing. If in Australia they have an outbreak of more than 100 cases and they're seeing ongoing community transmission, and they're still in the middle of a very, well, ending, but a very, very hot summer. You know, they have temperatures of around 40 degrees centigrade. So no, we're seeing lots of transmission in countries that are very hot and humid. So I'm afraid we can't rely on nature to solve this one. It's really in our hands.
It's really in our hands. I like the way you showed your hands. It is about hands, it's about hygiene. Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, do you believe that you were, you know, when the Italian patient came to your hospital, there was an element of scare, but do you believe by and large now, the system in hospitals is fully equipped and fully geared up if the number of patients are to increase? There were only a handful of patients till a few days ago. Suddenly the numbers are increasing.
Yes. No, in fact, we have been quite sensitized because we have been handling swine flu for last few years. And in fact, to begin with, the swine flu had the same presentation and same panic which the corona aroused. In fact, we belonging to the tertiary hospital with a separate isolation hospital, and we have almost a separate big RUHS hospital which is used for the quarantine. Truly speaking, over the period of time, even in just 2 weeks, the people are very composed, the medical teams are very confident, paramedics have no fear, they have been attending round the clock, and everyone has realized that if you take adequate precautions, if you keep away from the contacts, you medicals and doctors, if you take adequate precautions, use the protective equipment, manage the patient properly, and even the people around have also learned that taking the measures to protect the human to human transmission, I think it is very safe.
Let me come back to you in a moment, sir. Doctor, I'm going to come back to you. I'll come back to you in a moment because I just need to take a short break, a commercial break. Come back to with a little bit more. It's good to get some positive news that's coming out from doctors who believe that the system is now fully geared up to control the outbreak. Back in a moment. Welcome back. We're trying to look at whether lines of treatment now are in place or will be in place shortly on coronavirus, the biggest question that's facing the world in a way. Dr. Margaret Harris, while a line of treatment may not have been found, do you believe that we are closer today than we ever were to actually be able to contain it? There are those who believe that at least containment now seems to be a real possibility.
Containment is something that every country can do at the beginning of their outbreak, when they're still in the stage where they've got their eyes on where the virus is. So even if they've got person-to-person transmission, if they can see the chains of transmission, they can contain it. Other countries, when it becomes what we call community transmission, that means there are cases popping up all over the place and it's not clear how that person got infected. Then it's much more difficult to contain, and then you're at the stage you can still slow, especially using social distancing measures where you separate people, you try to stop people from being close together on public transport and at schools and universities, as we were saying. It's difficult in a very populated country like India. However, you do have some of the best brains in science and public health in your country. So yes, you are certainly capable of it.
You know, Dr. Ganga Khedkar, I have to ask you that. Do you believe that our medical system, our doctors, our public hospitals and private hospitals have the capacity, given the size and density of population in a country like India?
I think it's, if you ask me as capacity, yes, we have capacity.
We have the capacity.
But if you ask me, would it not be challenging? Yes, it is going to be challenging. Because we also know that the number of doctors that we have is small enough. No, it's still not adequate at this point in time if you look at various ratios. But I'm 100% sure on one issue. All of us will rise to the occasion if it comes to that. And whatever measures we have taken so far are more likely towards positive efforts towards containment rather than facing a community.
But isolation wards, number of beds required, can we gear up swiftly? Is there a sense that should this number of 80 go double up in the next week, we are still well in position to contain it?
If I answer a specific question, yes. 80 to 160 is not a big issue.
Yes.
Already the government has a plan ready. Every state government has been asked to identify places where people could be isolated there. Also ICUs that are available there as beds for people to be admitted, and that number is substantial. Would I think that the numbers are going to be so high that we will never be able to manage with whatever we have available? As of now, I can take pride in one thing, that our government has done an excellent job. So there is no reason to think that the whole thing can be blown out of proportion as we look at it now on the past performance.
Okay, that's good to hear. So it's good to get reassuring voices today. I appreciate therefore your joining us today, Dr. Ganga Khedkar, the man at the ICMR who has a tough few weeks ahead of him. Dr. Bhandari, well done that you have been the one who has been able to ensure that the first Italian patient that we had who tested positive recovered. And Dr. Harris, I thank you for joining me there from Geneva. I need to take a break because it's not just the medical doctors who are on edge. Also on edge is the world of business, markets, and indeed the world of sport.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.